We've got Ariana Madix storming out of the Vanderpump Rules finale party. We've got Lala popping off. And is this the series finale of Vanderpump Rules? Let's get into it. You're listening to No Filter with Zach Peter, your go-to source for all the latest pop culture and reality TV tea, served fresh all week long. Now, let's dive in. We welcome on in, guys. Welcome on in. Welcome on in. Welcome on in. What's up, everybody in the club? It is. We are fresh off of that Vanderpump Rules season 11 finale. So I got to watch it live at Schwartz and Sandy's last night, which thank you to Schwartzy, who gave me the keys to the castle last night. So I got to host the finale viewing party. We had a lot of fun. We had a lot of giveaways. We had a lot of shots. We did a shot skate. Like, it was quite the adventure. We had a good time. After that, I ended up going out for drinks with my friends, and we didn't get home until I didn't think I got home until almost 2 in the morning. And then I was up at 5 to make sure I was at the gym at 6 so that I could do my 1 mile benchmark. And listen, hungover and all, I got my ass to the gym and I ran that mile in 5 minutes and 22 seconds. 5:22. Let's get it. I think my last mile, which I ran in beginning of March. What was my last mile? My last mile was 5:47, and this one was 5:22. Okay. That's what, almost 30 seconds, right? Yeah. Almost 30 seconds faster. I was getting it. When I tell you, these boys, I had 2 guys on each side of me, and they thought that they were going to carry on. And I was like, I was going to start off, nice and easy and not push myself too hard. And when they thought that they were going to outrun me, I was like, baby boy wants to play. Okay. I love a good, don't threaten me with a good time. I love a good competition. So I killed it. Came in first place. Holla. And then I have Orange Theory's Regionals is this weekend, this Saturday. So it's the dry try, which is the dry triathlon that I did a few weeks ago. But that was just for downtown. And now I'm representing downtown this weekend. This Saturday. Participating in the regional competition. So wish me luck, y'all. Wish me luck. I'm going to run super fast. I'm going to push up all the push-ups. And I'm going to row your boat. Gonna kill it. So we are going to talk Vanderpump Rules. We're going to talk about that finale. Not only that, but there's a new show on Peacock called Love Undercover, and it is so good. It just dropped on Peacock. It's where they take all of these international soccer players or football players. They take them from Mexico, from the UK, from all over, right? They bring them into Los Angeles, and they have to pretend that they're not international superstar athletes, okay? They have to pretend that they don't have a bunch of money. They have to basically play the role of average Joes while dating these women, and these women have no idea. So they're stripped of all of their status, right? They're stripped of their fame. They're stripped of their wealth. And they just kind of have to act like just regular guys looking to date. And these women are going to continue to date them throughout this process. The guys are all together, so they kind of get to bond. I'm like, ooh, this is kind of hot. All these guys dating together. It's not like one bachelor. You got several bachelors. But it's good. I'm going to be chatting with a couple of the guys later in this episode. So be sure to stick around and catch Love Undercover, which is now available to binge on Peacock. So go check that out. Love Undercover. These guys are hot. Like, you're going to want to stick around and not just listen to my interview with them, but you're also going to want to watch it like on YouTube or on Spotify because, they be sexy. We like it. We like it a lot. I was like, I get to interview this hunka burn and love cast. Hell yeah. So I have 2 of them on the show today and 2 of them on the show tomorrow. And be sure to tune into Love Undercover on Peacock. Okay, let's talk Vanderpump Rules because OMG, that finale, you guys, was wild. So we're in San Francisco for Kyle Chan's Gold Bar Whiskey Party. Sipping the whiskey, we have Sheena performing APPLES. How you like them? Saw you on the internet. You a hot mess. APPLES. LES. And we see Sheena conflicted with forgiving Tom Sandoval. And we see Ariana not conflicted, very clear she wants nothing to do with Tom Sandoval. So we didn't get a whole lot of James. Like, we got a little bit of James in the finale, where he's talking about his relationship with Allie and like where that's going to go in the future. But I get the conflict, right? Like, I get how Sheena's like, well, he was my friend. I was friends with him for a very long time. But I also see Ariana being like, but I was with him. I dated him. I know who he is. I know the type of person that he is. And I feel like all of his behavior isn't genuine. It's performative. Now, I don't necessarily agree with Ariana's assessment that all of Tom Sandoval's behavior is performative. I get where she's like, he's doing this for the show. He's doing this to win over the audience. This is his redemption arc, whatever. I get that. She's very much in and aware of this being the show. But I do think he's trying, right? Like, Tom is Tom, and Sandoval is always going to be, ego-driven, but that doesn't mean that his ego drives everything, right? Like, I do think that there are opportunities I'm hoping. Maybe I'm a little too optimistic, but I am kind of hoping that there are opportunities for him to grow. I'm very curious. You can, if you're watching this on YouTube, drop a comment below. Are you leaning more Team Ariana, or are you leaning more towards Team Lala? And I don't like to do the teams thing, but like, whose side do you like really? I can see it from both sides. I can see it from Lala's side of like, this is our job. We have to film with each other. We've all been put in situations where we've been uncomfortable. That's just part of what this is. I get Tom's frustration. We see him kind of breaking the fourth wall about like, don't be in a show with your ex. He had to go through it with Kristen, right? Where him and Kristen had to have really uncomfortable and difficult conversations. He had Jax sleep with Kristen. He had to face that head on. Like, they've all been in these positions where there are things that they didn't want to have to address on camera, but they did, right? And I get it, I do feel like coming out of this finale, a lot of people are saying that this felt like a series finale rather than a season finale. I think it's a bit of both. I think that Vanderpump Rules as we know it will not be moving forward as we know it. Like, I think they're just going to have to do something new with the cast. I've heard a few different things. Like, one, they're trying to give the cast a break to kind of let the dust settle and not create some new storylines, but like let their lives unfold a bit more so that there's new, fresh content that's not super Scandival fallout, right? I get that. But I also have heard that it could potentially be due to the cast salaries, that they are a bit high. The cast salaries, they've been on the show for many, many years, as Lala said in the finale. Like, they've lived most of their adult lives on the show. And obviously with every season, you get a percentage raise, right? So being that they haven't brought in a bunch of new faces to cycle out the old faces, those salaries, I would imagine, are going to be very high. I think one of them even got like a pay cut this season, from what I've heard. Like a big pay cut, and I'm not going to tell you who it was. Going to keep that confidential. Maybe I'll spill that on members only, but I did hear that. And so I think that's part of it. Like, they're trying to figure out what they're going to do with the show moving forward. I don't see Ariana coming back. I think this was kind of their way of wrapping up her story. You see her walking out. We've kind of seen this moment. Like, we saw this moment on Real Housewives of New Jersey. Jacqueline Lorita's last season. Remember, she gets into that fight with Teresa and Melissa. She walks out of Rails, and then she gets into the SUV, drives off, and that's kind of the end of Jacqueline's story on Real Housewives of New Jersey. I feel like that's kind of what this final scene with Ariana was. I don't think the show needs Ariana anymore. I think she's given us everything. She's ready for listen, she's the host of Love Fucking Island. Sarah Hyland was the host prior to that. Ariana is doing exceptionally well. And I think at this point, she's beyond Vanderpump Rules. Like, she's beyond being just a Bravo reality star. Like, she's going to go on and continue to do bigger and better things. And I think she should just continue to strike while the iron's hot, save her money, invest it well, and keep the train moving, right? I don't think it's a bad thing that when I say that, like, I think Ariana's done with the show. I don't think it's a bad thing, and I don't think it's bad for the show. I think the cast as is are all willing to move forward with each other. Schwartz and Sandoval and Sheena and Lala, like, they're all willing to still move forward and still have their conflict resolution issues. But when it comes to Ariana, like, she's not, I mean, aside from being friends with Sheena, I don't think she's really friends with anybody else in the cast with exception for Katie. And I can even see Katie kind of leaving. I think Katie doesn't necessarily need or has much interest in doing the show anymore. I think she's kind of over this cast as well. I don't think she wants to be around Tom Sandoval. I don't think she really cares to be around Sheena. Obviously Katie and Lala are on the outs. So I just think Katie and Ariana have kind of put themselves on their own island that doesn't mesh with the rest of the cast anymore. So if the show were to move forward, I can see it moving forward without Ariana and Katie. And I don't think that that's a bad thing. I think it may be healthy for the show moving forward. We can bring in some new faces. We can cut some budgets. I don't know. We'll see. But I'm conflicted about Ariana's decision to leave at that finale. I will say this, though. All of my predictions for this finale have come true. And I believe that when they watch these final 10 minutes, that's what causes the beef between Lala and Ariana. Because obviously that's what Lala talks about in this final 10-minute scene. Which, by the way, chills, right? I've watched it so many times. I love that Lala's kind of the narrator. I know a lot of people are giving Lala shit because like she's such a hypocrite and she's so fake and she's always been so fake and she's Lauren from Utah, whatever. Listen, regardless if Lala is being a hypocrite in this moment, it doesn't make her wrong in this moment. I think she's right, you know? And I think they kind of had to edit this finale like this. Otherwise, I think it would have been a bit of a miss. It would have been a bit of a flop. Like at this point, we had to break the fourth wall and talk about that and get the cast's reaction to Ariana leaving and not completing her obligation to do her job, right? Because those are now the terms that we're using with this. So I feel like this was the only way, and this was the best way for them to edit. I don't think they were intending for it to feel like a series finale, but I do think it is an end to the era of Vanderpump Rules as we knew it. The cast is going to have to shift. The cast is going to have to change. I can even see them entirely rebooting the show and maybe focusing on a newer, younger cast. Maybe we keep a couple of them in for some cameos or something, but like I wouldn't mind if they took us back to the beginning and Lisa Vanderpump brings in a whole new group of servers and we kind of get that next era of Vanderpump Rules, especially because a lot of people are newer to Vanderpump right now, right? They started watching either in the pandemic or they started watching after Scandal broke and they wanted to be caught up on everything. That I think they would be fine, the audience, the newer audience members would be fine with a full Vanderpump reboot. I don't think that that would necessarily be a bad thing. And we move a couple of them over, Lala and Sheena over to the Valley. You know, the Toms can make cameos, you know, whatever we need, right? I don't think the Valley will become the new Vanderpump Rules, but it will kind of, you know, I don't hate that idea. And I can definitely foresee that happening. I'm trying to think what else. I do get Katie's side of things. Obviously, I think Katie just has this disdain for Tom Sandoval. I think she blames him for the demise of her marriage to Schwartz. I think that's just Katie's position, and she's going to stand on that. She does not like Tom Sandoval, so there's never going to be any redeeming qualities in her mind. She's never going to forgive him. She's never going to give him an opportunity to move forward. And that's just Katie, right? Nothing against it. That's just who Katie is. But I feel like I did like that she was very clear, like when Brock was kind of trying to defend Sandoval in like the brunch or lunch that they all went to. I like that Katie made it very clear, because I've said this several times. Tom Sandoval did not make a mistake. He didn't make a poor choice. He made repeated decisions, right? These were, him and Raquel chose to engage in an affair. And they chose to keep the affair going. And they chose to lie about it. And they chose to continue to lie about it, right? These were deliberate choices. I feel like but like some of the cast members and even Tom Sandoval were trying to dumb it down to it was just an affair. It was one thing. We've all cheated. It wasn't one thing. It was a series of things that created a big thing, right? It was a snowball of all of these little lies. It was a snowball of all of these little choices that had really big consequences. I get Ariana not wanting to film with Tom Sandoval. I get it. He's her ex. She doesn't want to film with him because that's her reality, is she doesn't want to be around him. However, I get Lala's side of it, and I think I'm leaning a little more on Lala's side. And I think the montage that they show us in that final 10 minutes, where we see all of the really ugly, uncomfortable conversations they've had to have, and where they have had to be honest. And one thing about this Vanderpump cast, I think is really good, is that they always hold each other's feet to the fire. They hold each other accountable. We see Katie calling out Lala about dating a married man. Again, I know people think that Lala's being a bit of a hypocrite in her words. Maybe there is a lot of hypocrisy riddled in those words. It doesn't make what she's saying wrong. I get Katie defending Ariana and being like, no, she set a boundary and that's her boundary. That is what it is. But it's like, if that's your boundary, then take yourself out of a situation where you're going to have to face this person. You know that he's another cast member on Vanderpump Rules, but yet you signed on to do another season of Vanderpump Rules with him, knowing you were going to have to see him, you were going to have to interact with him. Now, I didn't love where Tom's like, she's just being lazy and she's collecting a check. I don't think he thought that they were going to air any of that. But when he's telling Billy Lee that she's being lazy and she needs to actually show up and do her job, I get that. I get where I don't love the lack of tact in what he was saying, but I do agree. I mean, we got pieces of it, right? We got pieces of her moving on with her life, and we kind of see her and Dan, but I get Lala being like, she talks about how she can't film a scene with him, but yet she lives in the same house with him. She talks about how, she wants nothing to do with him, but yet she's already moved on. 8 days later, she was dating this new guy, Dan, which, by the way, getting to know Dan a little more in this episode, I feel a little differently towards him. I feel like at the beginning, I was like, I'm very skeptical. I don't know if I trust Dan. And then all the losers on Twitter were like, oh my God, how dare you say that who are you to trust Dan? That's Ariana's. I'm like, yeah, I know. I don't know. I didn't trust him. I had feelings and I stand on that. Now my perspective has shifted now that we've gotten to know him a little bit better. Okay. My opinions are evolving. Do kind of like him. I think he's probably still a rebound, but I think he's good for her right now, right? She seems happy. He's able to validate her feelings. He's able to respect her boundaries. He seems like he's really interested in making this relationship with her work. I do have questions because she's on television and all that stuff. However, I think it's, he's doing his thing and good for him. He's being a supportive boyfriend to Ariana and she's happy. And I like that. But I do think if you don't want to show up and engage with the cast in a way that is productive. Well, I mean, from what we've heard, remember about the reunion leaks, is that Lala's upset because she feels like Ariana not wanting to film with Sandoval jeopardizes the show. I agree, right? Everyone was saying like, oh, Raquel, we need Raquel back, we need Raquel back, we need Raquel back. But like, it could have been the exact same way. Like, we would have been very invested in Ariana and Tom working through the end of their relationship. And I mean, if this is how it's going to be and she's just going to continue to avoid him, and like, do we want to watch that? No, I don't want to see them constantly be in this weird place of animosity and she's avoiding him and she's drawing these, lines in the sand. Like, no, I don't want to see that. And I understand Sheena's side of it, where like Sheena's literally crying and being like, I don't want to lose you. And she's like, I never said you would lose me. And then they play back all the flashbacks of her saying, if you're going to be friends with Tom Sandoval, I don't want you in my life. He does not deserve access to my life through me or through mutual friends. If you're going to be friends with him, you're not going to be friends with me. We see her saying all of those things. They do the flashbacks to all of that. So I think she's always going to view Tom from that negative lens, right? Whereas I think Sheena's leaning on or looking at her friendship with Tom and looking at, yes, there were some bad parts, but yes, there were also some good parts. I think Sheena just has a really big heart and, is coming from a good place, or trying to at least. And I just feel like with Ariana, my thing is just leave the show. Leave the show. It's that, it really is that simple. And I know people are going to be like, she shouldn't have to leave her job because of a man, and that's so sexist of you, blah, blah, blah. This is your job. That's like saying I'm a football player, and you know what? I don't like this player, so I'm not going to get on the field. I'm going to sit here on the bench, and I'm going to chill on the bench, and I'm still on the team, and I'm still collecting my paycheck, but I'm going to be a bench warmer now because I don't want to go on the field, and I don't want to play with that particular player. Then fucking leave. Bye. You don't need to be on the field then. If you don't want to be on the field, then you don't want to play football, then you don't need to be on the team anymore. It's kind of that simple. And listen, I do like Ariana. I just saw her, what, a weekend or two ago, at the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society event, the drag show that Sparkle was hosting, Jared Lips. So I like Ariana. I have nothing against her personally, but I think in this situation, I'm leaning more on Lala's side of things because I understand that this is what your job is. Your job has certain requirements. Your requirements are to film a show. You need conflict and resolution. If you are working with somebody else, you can't avoid them. I don't get, well, I was going to say, well, because comparing it to Housewives Land, right? When some people are like, oh my God, Housewives, if this housewife doesn't want to film with that housewife. Well, we're seeing it right now in Jersey with Teresa and Melissa. And we're going to see how it unfolds. But it's like, we don't want that where a housewife's like, I'm not going to film with you. It's like, okay, then that's usually when you get cut from the show because you don't want to show up and you don't want to interact with your colleague, with your coworker. And now, naturally, I think people would bring up the argument, well, Tom and Ariana were in a relationship together and he cheated on her. That's different from two housewives having a falling out or one not liking the other one because of an ego match. But at the same time, we have seen some housewives that were friends with people that had really deep pains, really deep wounds from, actions or behavior from another housewife that they believed was really their friend. So I don't know. I can kind of see it both ways, but usually that's kind of how these things work. If you're not going to show up and you're not going to do what's required of you to do your job, then time to move on. And I think it's fine if Ariana does move on. I think she'll be happier. I think she'll be living her best life a lot more. But this was a good finale. I enjoyed it. I haven't watched The Valley yet. Maybe tomorrow we'll recap The Valley because I believe Michelle's affair starts to come out a lot more. But I haven't seen it yet. I only watched Vanderpump Rules, which I thought was a solid finale. I mean, the fact that we're all still talking about, coming after the Scandal finale, for them to follow up and have this good of a finale that, still gives us chills, that gets, it was riveting, and it was also super nostalgic for fans looking back at them on their original casting tapes and all of that, it warms my heart a little bit. It choked me up a little bit. So I'm very much a fan. I watched that final scene several times. I'm leaning on Lala. I don't know if I would say I like it, but it was an interesting choice for them to really let Lala be the narrator to close out this finale. I think she was kind of a voice of reason. I think Sheena was conflicted. I think Brock was the only one that was also kind of trying to insert himself, but I just don't think he executed that very well. And it did come off a bit aggressive and abrasive. Katie was always going to ride for Ariana. Ariana was always going to see her side of it. Sandoval was always going to see his side of it. Schwartz is Tom's Katie, right? He's going to ride for Sandoval regardless because that's his bestie. Whereas I feel like Lala was neutral territory. James, I don't think was going to... I think he could have, but he didn't really take on that role this season. I feel like James kind of took a backseat this season. Aside from, his relationship with Allie and him trying to rebuild his friendship with Tom Sandoval. But I feel like James is kind of just I'm just going to let this be. I'm going to let this ride on out. But those are my thoughts about this finale. Okay? It was a good finale. I'm happy with it. I thought, listen, if that's how Vanderpump Rules ended altogether, I mean, when they do give us a series finale, it better be this fucking good. Well, remember season 8? Season 8 felt like a series finale as well. Remember when we saw Jax and Stassi leave? So, I mean, maybe that's kind of what's happening here. I mean, I'm not saying that there's going to be another big firing scandal like there was back in 2020 when Kristen and Stassi and Jax and all of them got fired. But I could potentially see them editing the show in this way to kind of wrap up some of their stories. Primarily Ariana's, the way they see her kind of walk out, and that's kind of how the show ends. I can see, yeah. I mean, I said it 10,000 times in this episode. I definitely see the show moving on without Ariana. And she's fine, right? She's doing Love Island. She's doing Chicago. She's good, Good for her. She's living her best life. I ain't mad at it. I'm you go, girl. You do you. Live your best life. Work it out with Dan if you want to work it out with Dan. But she's got her new house. I think she's ready to move on from the show. those is my thoughts. Oh, let's talk about the final few seconds, right? So we see Ariana leave, and then we see, I predicted that there was going to be a hot mic moment as well. All my predictions are coming true. We see Tom Schwartz, and he says, oh my God, that was a plot twist. And Sandoval's like, yeah, but it was good for me. And so I like that they left that hot mic moment in, because it also does show that they weren't trying to be super biased to Tom and make Ariana look bad, because they do have this hot mic moment where you see Tom kind of gloating at the fact that Ariana leaves and Lala turns on her, and it seemed like everybody was on Sandoval's. Like Ariana left, she left the scene, she left the finale party, like she dipped out. Producers weren't too happy with her, and I think for Sandoval, he knew that like that was his opportunity and his moment to kind of get back in good graces. Listen, Sandoval's always been somebody that's operated with his ego. Sometimes it's with his dick, but it's primarily with his ego. And that's not to say that I don't believe him in a lot of his behavior this season. I think he does want to be better. He is trying to be better. He knows the ramifications of what he did. He's, trying. He could have been a total trash dude, total villain, leaned into that. Like Jax is very much that kind of guy. I do believe there is some of a performative side when it comes to Sandoval. And I think his ego is what got the best of him in that final moment where he's like, it's good for me. Because I think he felt vindicated. He felt like, Ariana's now the one that looks bad because she chose to leave. I don't think any of the cast expected the fourth wall break to happen the way that it did. But like, if you think about it, without that kind of final moment with Lala finally popping off, what would the finale have been? I think everybody was kind of hyped up and looking forward to it being like this final, like everything kind of comes to a head between Tom and Ariana. Like that's what the season was building up towards. And I feel like Sandoval tried to do that. I get Ariana's side where she's like, well, if he really wanted to apologize, he could have wrote me a letter. I don't think she would have read his letter. She's like, I would have read it at my leisure. I don't think she would have. I think she would have ripped it up and thrown it away and not read it at all. Yeah, I think she's, and she's hurting. She's still in pain from all of this. That I understand where she's at. Maybe in a couple of years it won't be this intense. I just think it would have settled a bit had she just had a conversation with him. I disagree with her deciding to walk up. I know Katie's like, well, it's her peace and it's her mental health. And people are like, why are people so concerned with Tom's mental health and they're not concerned with Ariana's mental health? Well, because Tom's mental health seemed to be in a much more fragile state. And he was talking about that. He was open about that. Ariana is seemingly, yes, struggling, but she's not talking about, the impact of, same thing with Rachel, right? Rachel's like, oh my God, my mental health, my mental health, my mental health. But then she's putting herself in a position that could jeopardize her mental health. I guess you can say Sandoval's doing the same thing by signing up for the show, but like, I don't know. I don't think that anybody's trying to prioritize Sandoval's mental health over Ariana's mental health. I just think Ariana has kind of moved on in a way. She's dating somebody else again. She's got new business opportunities. Like she's, moving forward with her life. I just don't think it works for the show. But I don't think, at least from my perspective, I'm not trying to prioritize his mental health more than hers, but I understand how the conversation is more about his mental health because of the conversation that's being had about the fragile state of his mental health. And I don't think that he's lying about that. I really don't. And I think, he's being honest when he says in this episode, he's like, Ariana knows me. Like, if anything, like, she knows who I am. But I also get how she can be like, no, I don't know who you are. You were lying to my face for 7 months after we had a 9-year relationship. I don't know who you are. If you're capable of lying to me about that, that makes me question every single thing about our relationship and everything about you. So, yeah, I think that's everything. Those is my thoughts. Drop a comment below and let me know what you think. Also, guys, just a reminder, you can book me on Cameo. You can get a personalized message from yours truly. I've been doing birthday messages. I've been doing pep talks. I've been doing business shout outs. You can use the link in the description below to book yourself a personalized message from me, a cameo from me. Book it now. Book it for your mama for Mother's Day. I'll make sure you get it in time. That's what I'm going to give my mom for Mother's Day. I'm going to give her a cameo of me. I'm like, hi, Mom. Happy Mother's Day. It's your son. It's your oldest. Yeah. All right. Now let's dive into Love Undercover. Great show. I'm telling you guys, you need to tune into Love Undercover. They bring in all these famous, wealthy, international soccer players, football players. They bring them together to date a variety of women. They have to conceal their identities. They can't tell them that they're rich. They can't tell them that they're famous. They can't tell them what they do. So they have, fake careers that they have to kind of lie and stick to. And I mean, listen, the men are hot. The drama unfolds. It's good. So be sure to catch Love Undercover on Peacock. They know how to ball on the field, but they don't want you playing with their hearts. From Peacock's new series, Love Undercover, please welcome pro soccer players Ryan Babel and Jamie O'Hara. Gentlemen, welcome to the No Filter podcast.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
So do you feel like your heart has finally found some love, or do we have to wait?
You're going to have to wait and see what happens. But I tell you what, there was definitely love in the house. We had a great time. A lot of love was flowing around. The guys, the friendship between the guys was the big thing, I think, with us coming together. The dynamic of us as a group of guys together in the house was brilliant. But there was fireworks, there's love, there's arguments, and there's disasters as well.
All my favorite things. I mean, I consider myself a disaster dater. So, I mean, listen, from what we've seen on the trailer so far, it looks like it's going to be a spicy new series. But I think what I really love is that you have the camaraderie of all of you guys coming into the house together, traveling all the way to LA to find love. But then we also have the dating aspect of it as well. But you guys did have to hide your fame and wealth from the ladies that you're dating. Do you feel like you normally attract partners because of your success? Lloyd?
I think it has been of course part of the majority of our lives. We've been playing football our whole careers, even before we were professional. Growing up, we had this football lifestyle to become professional, and now all of a sudden that gets stripped away. And you have to find different type of talking points to keep things interesting. You have to show more personality. You're trying them having to fall for you just of you. That's not easy, very challenging, sometimes very intimidating. But eventually, like I said, because of all the friendship that we created, we supported each other also in the difficult times. And I mean, I know Jamie has a lot to say about that. But
Listen, Zach, it was a disaster. All right, it was a disaster from start to finish. All right, I love over here. Everyone knows who you are. You go out, it's great.
Right.
People know who you are. I've worked hard to be known in England. It's not easy. So yes, you attract a certain type of woman, and that's why most of my relationships have ended, in nightmare and costing me money. But it's when I went out there to do the show, I thought, yeah, it's going to be nice. No one knows who you are. And then I thought, well, maybe they're not going to like you. Maybe you're not that nice. Maybe you're not that good looking. And I realized very quickly when I went out there, I met all these guys. I realized I'm not that good looking.
I disagree with that. All right, you're in my top three. But do you feel like I feel like pro athletes have this baller reputation, right? They're players, they're on the road, they're traveling, they have, hoes in every zip code. Do you feel like this anonymity kind of stripping you of that, pro athlete title? Do you feel like that kind of was an advantage for you, or do you feel like it was harder because you didn't know how to actually play the role of someone that you're not?
It's a great question. Being a footballer, it comes with a certain perception for sure. Like people, think a certain type of way. Oh, he's a footballer, he's a player. Oh, he's going to use me, and he's going to mess me around. So absolutely, of course. And a lot of the time, in the younger years, that's probably the case. But as I got older, the reason I done the show was because I was older and I didn't want to attract that type of person to come into my life who wanted you for a footballer. So there was pros and cons. You like being known. You like to have a certain type of person who comes up to you and talk to you. It's nice to have that, publicity in a way, but it was also nice to maybe try and meet someone you're gonna get to know for you, and the
Right.
personality of yourself to come out. And that was a massive advantage in the sense that they didn't know who we were. They didn't know we were footballers. So I can get to know this person for me, and is she going to like me for me? That was, a big advantage. But kind of like still being a footballer.
Yeah, for sure. And then do you feel like your type changed? Because not only are you having to kind of be someone different, but you're put in like this new experience, whereas typically maybe, your issue dating before was maybe your picker. Like with me, I like to consider myself one of the property brothers. I like a good fixer upper. If a guy has potential, the more potential, the better. But as I work on myself, I'm finding that I need to attract something different. So,
Yeah.
Ryan, do you feel like your type changed throughout the process?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. I think um, also during the show, I don't know how much they show that, but they in the beginning asked me so many times, "What's your type?" And I would, in a nutshell, say Beyonce. And
Yeah. Good luck with that.
I didn't saw my Beyonce in the beginning, so yeah, I had to adjust a little bit. But then, of course, also eventually when you get to know a lot of these girls, they show personality, and then you kind of see a different side, and you fall for different things, and that made it very interesting.
Mm, yeah.
What
Yeah. I
about you?
kind. I kind. Yeah. I kind of. I went in there with the mindset of wanting to find the perfect girl of what I thought was going to be perfect, but actually, you can't help what you're attracted to, and you're attracted to someone in there. You have a connection with them, and that might be just who you end up with. And I had a few dates in there with girls that really, truthfully, I look back and they're amazing people, amazing girls. They're very similar to what I've dated in the past, but I think that's just what I'm attracted to. Maybe a bit of fire, a bit of someone who wants to have an argument, be a bit crazy, a bit wild. I realized being in the show, actually, I think that's what I like.
You like a little feisty. You like a crazy girl in the bedroom or
Yeah,
outside the bedroom or both?
both, right? Come on.
Yeah.
I mean, we all think we want the nice reserved girl, and she sits at home and she makes your dinners. But also, come on, we all love a bit of feistiness. We all like a bit of fire. We all like to have that someone who's that passion. And I think I realised out there on the show that I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing as long as it's not too much.
Hmm.
How much did you guys lean on each other when it came to deciding who you were going to move forward with?
Yeah, loads. Yeah,
Yeah.
loads. I think that was the great thing about having the guys there, the five of us, all from backgrounds, similar backgrounds in terms of being footballers and being in dressing rooms and not being able to, have much luck with women in the past. It was really good to have guys there that you could lean on to have a chat with about what do you think on this moment? Do you think this girl's the right girl? Do you think her personality suits me? Like to have that dynamic with the guys was brilliant. Um, and we had arguments about it. We had rows about how we were treating the girls or what was the right thing to do or the right thing to say.
Right.
But it was nice to have the guys there to help each other out for sure. I mean,
Ryan,
we still made bad decisions.
naturally, but that's what I'm watching for. I want to see you make all the bad decisions. Because
Oh yeah,
and listen, that's what I'm attracted to. The more bad decision, the more red flags, the better for me.
there's definitely red flags coming.
Right, Ryan, what would you say was your biggest barrier to finding love? Was it you were so career focused, too driven, you didn't find like you were attracting the right women, or what was your kind of, what did you recognize as the obstacles towards finding that ideal partner?
Well, I must say, and I think I also said it on the show. Actually, I was the majority of my career together with the mother of my children. But yeah, we grew apart. Unfortunately, today we are great friends, great co-parenting, we have a good relationship. But yeah, there was a gap growing in between us after us being so long together. After that, you think you're trying to look for similarities, and then you know when you meet someone new that you have to start from scratch completely. And then it's kind of like discovering what you like, what you don't like, and also like I mentioned before in one of the other interviews is that what I noticed since I have kids is that there's always a slight disconnect with dating someone who doesn't have kids and dating someone with kids. So it's that little bit of understanding what it means to be a parent, and I think that's very important. Me and Jamie both have kids, so if we eventually going to be end up with someone in the future, it's definitely the big understanding of what it means to be a parent.
Yeah, you're looking for a stepmom, someone that's going to love your kids, take care of your kids, and help create that family. Which I would imagine would be, challenging within dating in general.
Yeah. Especially there in
Yeah.
LA, and
Yeah.
in a rooftop with jacuzzi and champagne flowing.
Sounds like a great Friday night.
Yeah.
Jamie, what would you say you learned about your biggest red flags? Because I feel like when it comes to dating, we often think it's the other person, it's everyone else but me. And it's not until you actually do a little inner self-reflection that you realize,
Yeah.
oh, I have some red flags myself. What did you learn about yourself through the process about, the issues that you're contributing to your own dating?
Yeah, for me, it was going out there, obviously trying to look for love, and I was going out there under the impression that I was going to get to be able to pick girls and be able to date them and think, oh, which one do I like? But actually, that wasn't the case. They were judging us. They were judging
Right.
us from the start. They were the ones who were in control. So we had no control whatsoever. They didn't know who we were, and we didn't have an opportunity to give them, any kind of background personality. So getting judged instantly was difficult and ruthless. And it made me realize that, yeah, I'm a footballer over here. Yeah, people know me. But you're not that good looking, right? You're not that hot. And these girls, were picking Lloyd and they're picking Sebastian, they're picking Ryan. I'm thinking, I've got to add a bit more to my game here, and so actually it was good for me because I then had to use my personality, which I had to use that to my advantage in a way, and show a side of me that really that I hadn't had to use before as much, because over here you go out and you're on a nice table, you're in a nice restaurant, you're going to attract a certain type of person regardless of whether you're talking to them and showing your personality. So for me, I learned actually I didn't need to be Jamie O'Hara the footballer. I just needed to be Jamie O'Hara and have a personality and chat to people and get them to know me. And if they like me, they like me. If they don't, then who cares?
Yeah. What about you, Ryan? What red flags did you learn through the process?
Well, yeah, there were times where, I had to had conversation with my inner self about my ego sometimes, without revealing too much. You had moments where you kind of felt a little bit neglected by people, and then that was that inner ego would be like, if she knew who you were, then she would never do that, But it was definitely an humbling moment to, yeah,
Yeah.
count till 10, accept it how it is, and just continue with the good energy, and then eventually the people you attract will attract, so yeah.
And what would you
Definitely curbed our ego.
Yeah, I would imagine. I mean, come on, you guys have money, you guys are elite athletes, mega careers, and now you kind of have to bring it inward and,
Yeah.
lean with your personality or, lean with
It's
your
tough.
look. Yeah. Um, what about green flags? What would you say are the top three green flags that you were looking for when looking for a partner?
Yeah, I mean, a great question, like, because everyone talks about red flags, but the green flags for me were, you know, first and foremost was the way you held yourself in a room. Walking into the room, the way you were as a person, just it wasn't even about looks. It was just kind of like an energy and a stature that you had as a person, like a confidence. I think a lot of the girls who come in had that actually, and their personalities shone through, and you could see instantly which ones were, might have been great looking, but they kind of had a bit of an arrogance or a bit of a personality towards them where they thought they were better than maybe they should be. And for me, the biggest green flag in a woman is, being the person in the room that not necessarily is the one at the forefront of everything that's going on, but the one who's got the composure and the stature of a woman, where you stand there and you go, that's a proper woman. That woman there, she knows how to hold herself, she knows how to be, she knows how to act, she knows how to talk to people. And actually, them women are actually quite hard to find.
Yeah, I mean, I was expecting you to say crazy party girl.
Yeah, well, I mean, of course, they're great fun, and that's what I'm attracted to. But
yeah,
it's not necessarily wifey material, is it?
Yeah.
Right.
What about you, Ryan? What would you say was a green flag that you were looking for when coming into the experiment?
Yeah, a lot of things that Jamie just said. I think a lot of girls eventually surprised me. It was funny, especially in the beginning, when they had to pick us from our picture. They didn't even know what flag from what country, we were. And to me, that was like a little bit of ignorance because, we outside of the US, we have to, get so much education and about history from the US that we feel like it's important. And then often what you notice is that in the opposite, they don't really get much information about, let's say, Europeans, right? So it was funny for a little bit, and then eventually, when you get to know them more, then you see actually the real personality. And yeah, like Jamie said, you clearly saw that there were a few in there who thought they were maybe higher up than they actually supposed to be, and there were a few that were just humble and collected and nice, and I was more attracted to those type of energies.
Well, my fingers are crossed. I haven't seen all of the episodes yet because they're just dropping. We have the first batch of 3 that drops on Peacock May 9th, Thursday, May 9th. Love Undercover. Gentlemen, I'm rooting for you. Jamie, I'm hoping
it's going to be fireworks.
I'm hoping you pick someone good. Ryan, I feel like you're very balanced and you have a good head on your shoulders. I'm a little worried about Jamie's picker, but I have faith in both of you,
Zach,
gentlemen.
be worried. Be worried.
We should be very worried, yeah.
It's a disaster.
I feel like you and I feel like are very much on the same page. I love chaos, and so I feel like that's a big part of what we.
That's exactly what it's going to be. It's chaos.
Chaos. I can't wait for all the chaos to ensue. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thanks, Zach.